One day the back door was open and we went in and got some chocolates and ice cream, and me finding a bundle of money, and the bundle of money led to a life of crime.
And then you spent 20 years in prison.
Jeffrey Morgan spent almost 20 years in jail for a series of thefts and bank robberies.
Being locked up, it actually was a beautiful place to be in. It actually was a beautiful place to be in. I didn't have the tools to understand that and get past that. I was a good person, I was just built bad. And making choices that were built around validation rather than respect or values or morals, because I didn't have any. And that's where I went from unconscious to conscious to change my life. After 20 years in jail, just enough was enough.
Now he's on a mission to stop other young people in Redfern making the same mistakes he did.
Every lesson's a blessing. It's not a mistake. And you got two choices in life.
You've spoken to nearly like 1 million people now, right?
Yeah.
So you would have so many conversations.
Close to 1 million now, so it's good through the program. So that's like pretty crazy.
Something that stuck out to me that we didn't talk about before was the nutrition that you study. When I was reading your bio and then going over the last podcast that we did together and getting to know you, you've had a journey.
And a half.
A journey and a half, and then some. And then you relived another one, and then you've had another journey. And when I was sharing who was coming on the podcast, the first thing that I share is, he's a mindset coach. He helps people with their mindset, but he's also been a bank robber before. You spent, was it 18 years in prison?
Or so, 20.
20 years in prison.
Who's counting?
You grew up in Redfern and you became
Correct.
homeless at 12, and then you went through loss as well while you were in prison, losing your parents in there. Talk us through, to get to know Jeff a little bit as to get you to this point. Share with us a few of those things that kind of shaped you into who you are.
Dysfunctional parents, I suppose, asking me at 10 years of age on the streets of Redfern who you want to live with, imagine that. And then growing up in a house, 13 kids on one foam mattress, bed bugs, your groin area like a cheese factory, and that's just been descriptive as I can get to be real about where it was. Sores all over your body because your hygiene isn't there, because that's just how we're living at that point in time. Everyone's getting drunk, stoned, whatever it is, loud music in the house, and we just, as a byproduct, so people get a context to Redfern. It was Australia's most notorious street. Violence was your first response. Jail was a badge of honour. Domestic violence was just normal. And the behaviours, beliefs, actions, thoughts of us were just, to be a part of the community. Mm-hmm. And to be a part of the community, you'd be proud. To be proud of all that was insane. To grow up that way and by 12 being locked up for the first time in juvenile justice, and just, I'll see the rest of the boys here and how good's this? People don't, a lot of context to that. People will talk about national campaigns. Yeah, imagine, right, 12 years old, I get locked up. Lock that little knucklehead up, stealing cars or whatever we were doing back then.
I'm sure you weren't called a knucklehead. I'm sure you were called more profanities back then. Let's be real.
Definitely, especially during our age, growing up. But in general, people would knock you. But then now you look at it and they're running national campaigns around protecting women, children, people, and any form of abuse. We were abused as kids, we do, and people, it's crazy. And then what you're doing is you're locking up that kid that, one, doesn't have the role modelling, two, has been abused and doesn't know how to deal with it. Any strategies? Our strategy was to get locked up and get some food in our mouth, a nice warm bed and a roof overhead. You think we were scared of being locked up? It actually was a beautiful place to be, and I was learning role modelling and discipline from the workers that were actually there. So people, to us, that's what I was taking away from it back then. If we get into the habit of just judging people, which everyone tends to do, then you always never create a solution to the problem. You water the branches to make the tree grow. No one does that. So get in the habit of actually understanding people. And that 12-year-old kid, you got to understand, started out eating food under a canteen one day with my brother, and going back to the same canteen, same box, same packet of chips every single day. And then one day the back door was open and we went in and got some chocolates and ice cream and the red frogs. And the red frogs led to me finding a bundle of money, and the bundle of money led to a life of crime. And that's how simple and easy that was at that point in time. And for me, I think people got to understand kids or just society in general. We don't seek to understand. We just judge. Never going to create a solution through judgment. And if you've got judgment, I always say, then you've got the solution to the problem. Why wouldn't you give it to that kid or that person or the environment that you're in? It's just crazy. And that's why we sit in a space and place where we do. That kid turns, into a life of crime at 12 and finishes at 37. So 25 years in crime, bank robber by the end of it, traveling across Australia to rob banks. And, you look back on that kid, if you asked me at 12, you're going to be this notorious bank robber, I had no intention of ever being that person. Who wants to be that? As a kid, I wanted to be, the only thing I wanted to be was Tom Cruise, Top Gun pilot. And even then I sat that and
you're on your way there, like.
Yeah, but they said, do you have a record? And I was like, no, I don't, because I just wanted to change my life. And I passed the test and they said, unfortunately, your record can't, you've come back and you got a record and we can't take you. And that was it. And my dreams were like, you're just criminal scum like everybody tells you you are. I didn't have the tools to understand that and get past that. And I just went out on the streets, dysfunctional, destructive, toxic, all of the above. And the choices I was making was just, I was a good person. I was just built bad. Mm-hmm. So even the women I was with at the time, I had great intent to treat them well, but I obviously sought validation that my parents didn't give me. So the next pretty woman that come along, I was chatting to them and making choices that were built around validation rather than respect or values or morals, because I didn't have any. Who did I learn it off? Yeah. And that's where I went from unconscious to conscious to change my life. After 20 years in jail, just enough was enough. And now more we call it life strategist. And the reason why I use strategist, there's a million life coaches, and some of those are younger than my grandkids, I suppose, and people sort of obviously attach that with someone like myself who's been through so much and being able to shift and change, and now travels the world doing that with everyone from the Department of Defence here in Australia as an example, professional sporting teams, corporate organisations, Aboriginal communities, or health services, national framework, universities. I want to make sure there's a clear and distinct difference between me and a life coach. A life strategist was the term we use these days, but definitely a lot around your mindset, business and personal development, stress and time management, burnout, and getting the most out of a human being, building better humans. And here we are.
Yeah. And here we are.
Yes.
And you're just forever evolving, forever growing, forever meeting new people and kind of growing that repertoire. And what I love about you, and, I've been lucky enough to get to know you now since we did the first podcast, is your lightheartedness and your optimism. You'll always see the light.
Always. Yeah, I think once you've seen so much darkness, it's like I break it down to the yin and the yang. And I do this with everything. You got two choices in life. Yeah, and that's the pain of regret, what you don't do in your life. You're going to get to this campfire of life. Me and you were sitting around and tell us your story back. I went to work every day and worked from 9 to 5. And I'm like, did you want to do more? Yeah, I wanted to go here, there, but why didn't you do it? Or the pain and discipline, and that means you've got to show up and do the stuff you don't want to do, but do it like you love doing it anyway, and get to the end of life and sit here and say, I went here, I jumped out of an aeroplane, whatever it is that you wanted to do happened. And they're the chapters of your book that we're going to talk about throughout this, and those lessons became blessings in my life, and if I can do it, all of us can do it.
And I love as well, speaking with you, you've not been perfect in life, but you've done your best, and that's the best advice. I think when you're a life strategist speaking to people, I think there's I'm definitely guilty of it before, where you're trying to chase perfection, you're trying to chase pure joy and happiness every single day, all day, every day. And, when we kind of have a conversation, every time we've spoken, every podcast I've seen you on, and every time I see you speak, you talk about that you haven't been perfect. And that's like the first part to that joy and happiness, I find, is acknowledging the parts that you need to work on, finding your shadow and your darkness to work on. And I love that you do that, because it's a permission slip. It's opening up for other people to go, hey, yeah, you've done some things in the past, but you get to be a new person every day.
Love that. You see shadow work now, and obviously who you used to be and who you are now, and authenticity, vulnerability, those two words. I'm not perfect, and I'll never be perfect. I used to be like yourself, and a lot of people, I think, our society is like that. Let's get this perfect. Just biggest thing, perfect is just starting and just doing. Just do, get it done, and every lesson's a blessing. It's not a mistake. It's not a F up. It's not I learn, grow and prosper from everything I do. Yep. And that means I'm not beating up on myself, as you said before, the optimist, but finding the greatness out of everything that you do, rather than sitting in, once again, the good or the bad. I meet you and I'm online and I'll say, hey, my name's Jeffrey Morgan. I'm full of toxicity and stress and heartache and pain. Would you like to go to coffee together? Right, exactly. So why do we do that in every day? Yep. Why do we accept that, right? You laugh at it, but the craziest thing, most of society accept that. And what that means is we do it unconsciously. Peak hour traffic's a great example. I'm just going to do this, but I'd rather do that. Well, go and rather do that. And I don't mean quit your job and just go over there and try and make it work. That's
tempting.
Make sure you got a runway, make sure you're smart about it, and then go into it and build some stuff in the background. Rather than watching Netflix, go and build what you want to do as your main job. It could be a side hustle until it becomes your main hustle, and most people just don't do that because the fear of what about everybody's judgment of me, or you just got to look inwards what you want to do and make sure that by the time you sit at that campfire of life, you've lit up every flame that you wanted to light along that way, and wrote out every chapter and become that movie star like Brad Pitt or whoever it is, right? On the other side, female-wise for yourself, that you want to be, and be that person every single day and love life, man. Priceless.
Ooh, love that. Love the campfire analogy. There's so much in what you shared and so much in your journey that I want to touch on. You spoke about when going back to being in prison, and one of the things that you chose to do and something that's led to where you are now is studying nutrition. Something for me that pricks my ears around when we speak about mindset and when we speak about wellness and mental wellness. I have a belief that, the bigger powers that be don't want us to be nutritionally empowered, because if you're empowered nutritionally, you're healthy, your brain works well, and you don't necessarily want to be a worker. You don't necessarily want to be doing those, sitting in the, back-to-back peak hour traffic. So taking that empowerment and jumping on board, getting that nutrition, do you feel like that was the starting point, or the pivotal kind of point that you realised that you are empowered, you get to make those kind of changes, and then that's something now that you empower other people with?
Love that. It's healthy or unhealthy. Once again, simple, right? Break it down. What do you choose? Well, if it's healthy and they're like, I don't have time to cook, that's because you've chosen something to pay your bills. And when people understand that conversation, I'm like, what do you do? What are you working for? And they go, I've got to pay my bills. And I'm like, so is that the number one thing you're doing it for? And when you understand that, you say, I don't want to pay the bills. I want to live life. And all right, what's living life look like for you? I'd travel more. I'd be with my family more, whatever it may be. I don't know what it is. When you define that, how does it happen? Who are you with? What are you doing? All of these things. That's what we run you through. And once you get to that, you get an understanding of what you truly want. And what I truly wanted was to feel good from the inside out. And, growing up where I did, McDonald's, I could tell you the order was a cheeseburger meal with extra cheeseburger, 10 nuggets with sweet and sour sauce, hot apple pie, and a chocolate sundae with extra fudge. And I ate that for breakfast, lunch, and dinner every single day growing up. Crazy to think like that. And I thought that I functioned good. until I started to eat well. And then I realized the nutrients that were put into the body. Going into a deeper story of that, I'll leave Gary Brecker and some others. I'll jump on board and say I support what they say, and I'll say that it's important to learn how to fuel yourself, right? And most people love cooking, but they don't have the time to cook. So therefore they relate it to, I don't like cooking because they're so rushed and they don't get the time with their family. And sometimes people don't equate that to sitting down and actually putting your phones away and communicating together these days, like we did once upon a time back in our day, which shows my age. I'm younger, but
21?
21.
21 twice.
But I look at it, and how you function, feel, and look is determined by what you put in your mouth. Even your gut microbiome, it's very important for people to understand how you treat that is going to determine probably 80% of the illnesses and diseases you end up with in life, and it could determine the big three: cancers, heart disease, diabetes. So why wouldn't you learn that? Like, it's insanity, right? And you've got something like ChatGPT now. And I'd say, go out and type in, teach me 10 things about, preventing cancer through foods, 10 things preventing diabetes through foods, 10 things, and they will spit it out and go and practice that every day, because everyone will tell me I'll die for my family. Go and live for your family. And if you don't know those 10 things, are you really putting time, energy and effort into a space to make yourself holistically good from the inside out and allow yourself to live with your family as long as you can? Or you just telling yourself some words of convenience for the moment to sound good and tough or strong or whatever it may be you determine that as? Go and actually do that and have the pain of discipline become a part of your DNA, and you'll live long and strong for you and your family.
And that's, when we speak about the nutrition and being able to, it's a privilege to be able to eat well. So it's going to be easier for people who are in a privileged position. So for people who aren't in the position to do that, when you were younger, it wasn't necessarily, you get passed on decisions, you get passed on nutritional education or lack of nutritional education from your upbringing. So it's going to be harder for the people who don't necessarily have that.
Absolutely.
Can you speak into, starting back here, speak into the lack of privilege and how much harder you're going to have to push, and how you made the choices to go down that path instead of the other? I know you ended up going down one path, but you had a choice to stay there or not. Can you remember what it was to go, I'm not fucking staying here. I don't want to be here. I'm making that change, and I'm not going to be the victim of my circumstances, which was pretty shitty to be able to make a change.
I heard Ant Middleton on a national TV show get asked, what did it feel like killing people? Did you ever feel bad about killing those people at war? And Ant said, well, it gets to a point in time where the threshold's crossed and you just got to do what you got to do. And I think that's where I got to. I got sick of my own bullshit. I got sick of, I knew there was more. How come that person's got the Ferrari? How come that person's living better? How come that person's feeling better, looking better, functioning better? And then I started to pursue that. And I think once you understand that, people cap themselves by what I call a ceiling, and their ceiling is the ceiling of their knowledge that then creates the bridge of confidence. Knowledge becomes wisdom when you put in those efforts on a regular basis, daily deposits to your health, your wealth, your happiness, whatever it is, and that builds your bridge of confidence between knowledge and wisdom. And wisdom will never become knowledge, or knowledge will never become wisdom when you don't practice it. So we can pass this on today, but knowledge isn't power without application. So many, you could type in Google, ChatGPT, it gives you the knowledge, but the pain of discipline, most people don't have. The pain of responsibility, ownership, these words, look them up, understand what they mean and what that means to you, your family, your life, or whatever it is. And then you can start to practice that and watch what happens on the other side. You look at, it's just, it blows me away on a regular basis how poorly we treat life. And I always say, if I asked you today, I'll give you $50 million, you happy? You'd be happy, right? I give you $50 million.
Oh, that's stoked, yeah.
If I give you $50 million but you have to die tomorrow, are you still happy?
Oh, no.
Then you understand that your life's worth $50 million. Why do we treat it like a garbage tip and just throw in anything? And you've got to go back to that ceiling I spoke about. If your ceiling of this is my pay packet, or this is what we have as a salary, or the amount of money we have per week. Break that ceiling, smash that open. I'd love to swear right now. Smash that.
Well, get in there.
MF.
You swear as much as you want.
Smash that MF open. And the reason why I say that, because
No, say it.
Smash that motherfucker open.
Yeah.
Right? That's the reality of this whole conversation. And the reason why I say that is because people say, I got $1,000, so I can't afford it, right? Whatever it is, a holiday overseas, after my outgoings, I got $200. So as long as you believe that based on your salary, you'll never go out and create a new side hustle. And they're like, oh, yeah, but I don't know how. Well, you didn't know how to do your job either when you started, but you got it done now, didn't you? So just go and do it. And don't worry about being perfect and worrying about what I'm doing, you're doing. Just do you and do it your way. And if it adds even 20 grand to your salary or your total, income for the year, what would you do with the extra 20 grand? And I'm not saying 2 million. It could be 2 million for somebody. People started businesses, they didn't know where it would take them, and they become billionaires. You just never know. But most people won't start because, one, they're not perfect. Two, they're comparing to you and I or whoever it is out there. Three, you've got to get good at being the champion and being a beginner, and just let go of your ego and your pride. That's the biggest thing. Ego and pride kills all your dreams. I don't need that. I'm right. You're full of shit. But the reality is you're full of shit because I say, I don't need that. And then, these wankers that got money, and then they'll write on your post when I'm in first class, wish I could do that. And the first thing I'll hit them with is, why do you feel that you can't do this? And they're like, oh, yeah, but you came from money, did you? And I was like, obviously you don't know my story, and if I can do it, you can do it too. Would you like the first step? And then people will say, oh, no, maybe next year, or, well, that's your choice. And I'm not going to argue with the person. You can choose to do it, or you can choose not to do it. Either way, you're winning. And what I mean by that is you're winning the way that you perceive your own life. And if that's how you want to perceive it, well, best of luck to you. I'll cheer you on from the sideline.
What's that first step that you're talking about when you speak to people? I know when you've been in the shitter, in the worst point of your life, there was like a first step, and I'm sure that you didn't take one first step. You had to take that first step multiple times, over and over. You failed, you went back, you fell, and kept on taking that first step. What is that first step? It's
getting past your first thought and how you're programmed. So I want to come overseas with me, I'm going for 9 weeks, and your first response is, I can't do that. Sorry, my boss won't let me. You've just capped yourself. And if you say, when are we going, you'll operate from a different level. I mean, like literally booking a holiday. People might have $5,000 in their account. They'll say, what you just said is crazy, Jeff. That's bullshit. But if you had $5,000 in the account and we go to Bali and that's 4,000, I say, just drop it, or even 4,500. I'm like, drop it. But I want you to start your business idea or whatever it is. I guarantee when you're, the old Holt analogy, hungry, angry, lonely, tired, you would find a way. If I drop you in the middle of the desert, we go out in a helicopter, I take the mask off, say, here, Beck, have a look around. You go, we're in the middle of nowhere. I say, best of luck, man. And I'll just drop you and say, get out of the plane. I've got a gun to you, get out of the plane. What are you going to do? You get out of the plane and what? You've got 2 choices now. So I'll break it down to the yin to the yang again. You can sit there and die and shrivel up, or you can start walking in a direction. That's all you got to do. You got to change how you think about your first thought that comes to your head. I can't do that. I'm not smart enough. I don't know how. They're all self-limiting thoughts, behaviors, beliefs that feed into who you are as a character. Just say to yourself, all right, I'm going to challenge that thought, rewire it, reframe it, reword it, and say to them, I can't do that. Determine that by, this is a great opportunity for me to grow into a better version of myself, or whatever it is that you come up with, and then you're starting to move in the right direction of life. But once you leave that there, you're programmed through yourself up here in your brain to operate from that level, and you'll always operate from that space because that's all you know. You will never be what you can't see. So you have to write something out new, and you have to surround yourself with the people and the environments that are going to take you there.
That's the thing, and being surrounded with those people make a difference because you're spot on. You don't know what's possible if you can't see it. And I just went on a holiday to Japan. I went on a cruise.
Love that.
I grew up in a household where we didn't go on family holidays and things like that. Never had perceived going on a cruise. And at 39, I've gone on a cruise for the first time.
Nice.
It's the same as going into business class and first class. I always walk past there and it pisses people off behind me, but I'll always pause and kind of be like, I'm going to be here one day.
Love
and,
that.
you know, watching you post and stuff like that, you don't know what you don't know. And if you can't see it, you can't dream it. You know what I mean? With that, of creating that person within yourself, I can imagine, like you said, we're all flawed. There's things that, you know, each day you can't be 100%. There would be remnants of, you're always going to be Jeff. You're a better version of Jeff. But what are some of the things that still kind of hang around that are hard for you in a day or, you know, in a month that kind of rears its ugly head and you've got to work through? What are some of those things?
Yeah, I'd say like the old thoughts of who you were, you know, the old build, and some of that, whether it's criminal nature, something that pops up on your feed as an example, and you sit there and look at it and straight away it triggers me internally. I'm like, wow. You get this nervousness about yourself, and a lot of things are happening in that criminal world, especially now. It's pretty crazy in Sydney at the moment, and there's a lot of shootings, and some of those are just on public streets, and I'm like, this is insane. It was why I got out of that world, but like those sorts of things, getting in the habit of trying to not watch it anymore is huge for me. So I've got to that point where I was saying, you don't need to look at it. And why keep your finger on the pulse of something you're not in? And I think that's the same principle to everybody. We keep our finger on the pulse, and it doesn't have to be that extreme, of your old relationship or your old job or your old self, and you get stuck in that old way. So every time I identify something, I work on making sure I've dealt with that, recognized it, respect it. What did I learn from it? How did I grow from it? Now, how am I prospering? And prospering is not just the financial, it's all, you know, your thoughts, your behaviors, your beliefs, your morals, like the whole framework and roadmap to your life. And then at that point in time, I let it go.
Yeah.
And I'm like, it's not probably, you know, it's a term that I use personally, but today is a good day to die. And what that means is kill off the old version of yourself that doesn't serve you. And when you get to that level, you get to a different level that you never thought possible. And you talked about that business class and first class. One of the things, going back, a little exercise for everybody to take away, jump online and your next holiday, you're going to fly the economy, I want you to book business class. And what I mean by that is go and look at what it costs. And people, well, not costs, it's the investment in how you feel at that point in time. And then actually mark down, sweet, all right, I need 4,000 that way, 4,000 back. To Bali, I think I looked it up the other day. It's 2,000 one way with Qantas, 2,000 back. Qantas, big shout out to you. You can get on board. But in general,
same. I feel you there. Yeah. Hey, Qantas. Hey.
In general, like that's $4,000, and people say I can't. You know, I'd put $4,000 elsewhere. When you operate from a level where $4,000 is nothing in your head, you'll have so much money that the $4,000 won't matter. You'll be able to, but what we do is 4,000, I could buy a car with that. I could do something with pay my house off. But when you get to a level where you think $4,000 is nothing, you'll pay your house off in 2 years or you'll buy it cash. And people are like, oh, that's bullshit. Well, it's in this day and age, there's like young kids on YouTube absolutely tearing it up, and they've just got more money than most people put together, and most families put together as a whole. And it's just because they followed their passion, they didn't think about it, they just did, and that was perfect. And in the end, find your perfect. It's
that belief of what's possible. There's no barriers to kind of what is possible with finances. And, you know,
don't put a cap on that.
Yeah.
So if I said to you, how much would you like to make this year?
Oh, I would love to make in the millions. That would be great. I'd be happy with, you know, like a couple of 100,000.
I think as soon as someone, and I used to say this, I'd be happy if I make $1 million. But $1 million's the cap. So if I make $1 million, then I sort of pull the pedal off the metal. But what if you could just focus on impact and service to people on the other side, whether it's a product, a service, an outcome, whatever it is, and then just focus on providing that value and benefit to you. And you go, wow, his business accelerator course is unbelievable. You've got to do it to your girlfriends, your friends. And all of a sudden, 10 new clients come through there and I didn't say anything. It was what I provided that got you to speak that language. And now you're operating at a whole new level. And whilst I sleep, tomorrow morning I wake up, more money goes in the account. And it's not because I said, I'm going to make a lot of money, but I didn't cap my money. I just said how much impact and service, how could I service an outcome? And at the end of it, I don't have to speak anything. People just sign 100%. Up and that's what happens. So, and
even with the podcast here, like we've got a sponsor, Untapped Resources, nice. And Aaron and Mitch have seen the vision. And I never imagined that I'd be able to get a sponsor. I never asked for it or put it out there. And it was one day when I just went, you know what? These conversations need to be had. It's not about me. It's bigger than me. Going up on site, it was like an added service to people to continue the conversation, because same as when you go up and facilitate, you can have these, you present for an hour, maybe 2, maybe 3. You'll have a conversation with somebody afterwards where you've changed their life or they've been impacted to make a change in their life. But then where to then? You've got your the accelerator program. But I found with the podcast, it's something that I can offer more. And it's been interesting when I've stopped my own cap and gone, you know what, I'll allow it to be what it is and put the belief out there that a sponsor comes on board where I'm able to be in this beautiful studio, working with the crew at Bright Star and having yourself come on a second time where it's not on Zoom and more people are going to be able to see it and you look amazing, we look great, you know, life has kind of changed. And it is so interesting that you touch on that, is that you put it, life is what it is because you've made choices for it to be there.
Love that.
And I love watching you just makes my heart so happy. So
I'd say keep chasing more sponsors and go after like it's for like, so if you're a business owner and business, this is business in a sense. Podcasts around the world make millions of dollars. Let's be real. And the reality is you're just doing it to serve other people and help them, like with the tools, strategies, tips, ideas of how people function, whether it's on a business, life, relationship, whatever level. And that health, especially you've spoken about that this morning, level that allows people to get a great outcome. And if you go to particular people and say it's about health, it's about women, it's about men, it's about mental health, you'll find that a lot of people will jump on board more than you probably think, and a lot of people think. So my advice to you is keep pursuing those more, because it'd be great to be able to have an alignment of what you stand for and who you are. So reach out and get in touch.
If you'd like to be a sponsor, get involved. But as well, you know, going back to the conversation that you were having around how you get held accountable for the person that you were in the past. Something that comes to mind when we speak about being a criminal or having been a criminal in the past. I've had this conversation with people. Some of the time, making decisions to be a bank robber or be a drug dealer or be someone who's doing a dishonest job is easier. You know what I mean? You don't have to pay taxes. You're in the underworld, but you're in essence, and maybe this is the wrong fucking thing to say, but if you don't get caught, it seems like life is easier. You're making buckets of money. You're seeing money that you wouldn't otherwise see. You know, when you're working 9 to 5, you're trading your time for your money. But when you're a criminal, you're doing things dishonestly. So I can see why it's enticing to people, and I can see why it's enticing to young people, because it doesn't make fucking sense to go and give your time to someone. Can you speak into that? Like, have you had that conversation before in that it would be easy to do it that way, but the ramifications of it and choosing and going down the path to choose the harder road kind of thing?
How do you, my thing, and this is important for everybody, how do you bridge that gap then and still be able to work for yourself, but not, if you work for yourself, you're going to pay taxes. That's the reality. Obviously in the criminal world, there is no tax other than the one that someone else puts on it if they're dealing with you or something like that, and your life, your time, the whole lot. But I think
laugh, but you know, people die.
It's pretty crazy. It's a crazy world, and you've got the thing about the criminal world I love, well, I shouldn't say I love, but it taught me a lot about going all in, because when you jump a bank counter, the screens come up. I'll just give you that example, let alone the amount of people that have been killed for money in general in that world. And, some of them have been best mates, and you hear the stories where I'm with my best mate, I walk over here and bend down and the person shoots me and takes some money. It's just like, it's a crazy world. But I took a lot from it where just be like, don't think, just do. And you don't get time to think jumping across a bank counter. You've got to jump across really quickly. Someone presses that. A lot of people got stuck and never made it out of the bank. And, to me, I'll take that out, but I also cross that over with being able to be a go-getter for the life you want. And a lot of people won't ever do that. They're just going, I'm going to work for somebody, I'm comfortable here, and I'm happy with this life. But ask yourself one question. If you could do anything and get paid $1 million as an example for it, what would you do? And, if people you said, I'd love to do this, podcasting, right? Every single day I'd just have guest after guest, would fly them in and all that. Well, then why aren't you doing it? And you're like, but it's not real, Jeff. And I'm like, well, you just capped yourself straight away.
Give me a year.
Yeah. Not even start doing it, just do and see where it takes you. Sponsors, hey, can I get a sponsor? And maybe even get sponsors that would pay for people to come and fly here and do that and put them up in a hotel. Like, work out the maths. I'd need every guest. I'll get guests from across the country and I'll bring them in. And I think once you understand each state and what their investment would be, try and find a sponsor. And it might be somebody that wants to look after the health and well-being of people, or somebody that wants to look after women on a domestic violence level. Domestic violence can be, I think we focus on the action rather than how you build the human better. So these conversations, we're building ourselves better today, and on the other side of that, people are going to learn things that build them better and ultimately hopefully make a better choice at that point in time where they might not have in any position. And I think if you can go to other sponsors and maybe possibly do, why couldn't you do it? And why couldn't you get to a point where people say, hey, this is unbelievable what you're doing, and the guests you got on, and that would take your podcast to a whole new level, because you'd say, hey, we'll put you up, we'll fly you across and interview. Who wouldn't want to come on that? Thanks for coming.
Bring
a little
that
quick holiday.
on. It's on. But so say people aren't surrounded by a Jeff or a Becky, they don't have that, because you do. My life has completely changed when I changed the people that I hung around, and or the people that I was hanging around rose with me as well. And then they rise and I rise with them. Say you're not surrounded by those people, you're not surrounded by those conversations that are uplifting or, raising the cap and the bar of what you can live your life with. What do you find, you're having a freaking panic attack at 2 a.m. Maybe you're somebody who suffers with suicide ideation. Maybe you're somebody who suffers with anxiety, depression, and life isn't where you want it to be. And I know you've been there, what are some of the things in that moment that you talk about how you flip your mindset and that you make that change? It's easy to talk about, but what is it when your mind's playing tricks on you, you're telling you you're a failure, you're shit, life's shit, you've done nothing with yourself? In those moments, what was it that you tangibly did to be able to create that change in your life?
Going back to that first thought, rewiring that, like how you spoke to yourself, your words. Like, I literally wrote all these out. What words do I use in this situation? What are the beliefs attached to it? What are the thoughts attached to it? What actions do I take at the end of that? And that basically, I call it the negative and positive fear loop. And fear in general, feelings, what are you feeling at that point in time? What are your emotions attached to it? What actions do you take then? And then what reactions come from that? And if you understand that, you go, this is all negative, I'm feeling anxiety, stress, I'm depressed, or whatever it is, you're telling yourself, hey, I'm Jeff, I'm stressed, I'm anxious, I'm feeling depressed. Would you like to date me? There's not a girl that would be attracted to that unless they're in the same spot. Right? And when you meet that person at that level, it's trauma bonding, and I guarantee it will last for a period of time. Then someone will break free of the chains because someone will step up, some don't, and stay there for the rest of their lives. Each to their own. It's a free world, but there is a different world out there. And you've got to be able to say to yourself, work on you more than anything, because what we try and do is we try and get in these circles. I'm going to get in this circle. But you got to understand, when you're in a circle of say it was horses, and one just is a show horse and it just sort of stands there and it looks pretty, and the other one's a racehorse. The racehorse wants to run. The other one's like, oh, how good's that horse running? It's beautiful, but look at me, I'm standing here. You got to understand that the racehorse doesn't say come for a run with me every day because it knows that the show horse is just going to stand there and look pretty. So you've just got to work on yourself. And that's the biggest tip I got to everybody. Ask those questions, and you got to cut the bullshit, and you've got to, no fluff. Oh, why don't people like me? Like yourself first. Love yourself first. Engage in yourself first. Think of yourself first. But we tend to, I'm going to fix Beck. Oh, Beck, you haven't, you're not feeling good. Let me give you some advice. Go and take your own advice and practice that every single day. And that's how I won, because I just wanted to better myself. I wasn't better than anybody else. I just wanted to better myself. And by doing so, I learned so much about shit. This is how I respond to this situation. This is how I act. This is how I behave. And does that truly serve you? And then on the other side of that fear analogy, what feelings did I want? What emotions come from that? Happiness, fulfillment, content, whatever it is, right? The actions behind it. I'm going to the gym. I'm eating well. I'm talking to myself nicely. I'm surrounding myself with people. I'm setting boundaries. And then the reactions, man, financially, emotionally, spiritually, culturally, how you're built as a person. And ultimately, that led to who I am today. And most people I don't have time to do that. Bullshit. Just bullshit. Because if you don't make time for your wellness, you'll make time for your illness. My mum wasn't good with appointments. As soon as she got cancer, she didn't miss an appointment. I saw it in real time. And I've seen every person that gets cancer and how much they show up to these appointments to get their treatment. Don't wait for that. What are you waiting for? Like, give yourself a snap kick to the moon, because you just got to sit and say to yourself, how can I build myself better, one step at a time, and just practice that every single day.
I love that. Best advice.
And don't dump what you practice, which means don't start something and then dump it. Start it. When you mastered it, add the next one. And if that's 3 months for you to add, that's cool. You might have got it in 3 days. I might have got it in 3 minutes. Someone else might have got it in 3 seconds. Who won? We all won. But what we'll do, if you get caught up in other people, externals, you forget about the internal. It's me against me. I took 3 months and I'm cool with that. Makes sense?
Yeah.
Best way you could live. Focus on you rather than focus. No one controls the sun, and if you do, you suck, because I'd rather it's summer all year round. But in general, like, we focus on the external, which is I'm trying to like me, Beck. I'm just going to be me, and if the person likes me, they like me. If they don't, it's not my person.
It's freedom, isn't it?
The sun's still going to shine every day for me because I'm focused on me.
Yeah.
And that's it. Your vibe attracts your tribe. Birds of a feather flock together.
Yeah.
It's just true, because in the end, the right people won't land where they're meant to be.
And you have changed, the people that you hang around. I can imagine that would change consistently. So who you were hanging around when you were younger, and then in jail, it was different, and then going out of jail, it was different, and having to stop yourself from going back to old habits. You've been transitioned between hanging around lower socioeconomic and people who's kind of are a victim of their circumstances and can't necessarily see the light. And then, like, I can imagine you're surrounded by millionaires, billionaires with conversations. What's the difference in the conversation around money and wellness in both of those places? And what's the best piece of advice that you've received in those?
Well, your perspective and lens, it's the same world. It's just where we see it through. You can be a prisoner behind your own eyes, or your eyes can light up the world that you want. And for me, it was just about, when we're victim or victor, as you said, when we're in the hood, it's the external, the police, the government, the society, my mum, I blame my parents. I was that person. And as long as I was that person, I was angry. And I was going out to the world angry, and then add the Aboriginal factor to it. And back then, especially, Stolen Generation had just come through. Redfern was violent. It was us versus the world. And you could see why I was just who I was, and violence. I loved it. Like, you get cheeky. I'm glad to give you an uppercut, because in my head you deserved it. Would I do that now? No. Like, for me, I'm more about unity and community. And that I realise, the different levels of thought processes from victim violent, angry, frustration. And I can understand because we don't have the strategies. But then I just started to say, does this serve me? Fuck no, man. Like, this is crazy. What is this normal? I walked up Everleigh Street one day and people were shooting up in front of their kids. There was a big punch on, like we were in the Coliseum, and blood everywhere, and everyone screaming, smash him, yeah. And it was so normal. And then I looked over and other people were pulling cones, and like their kids are there, their cousins are there, their nephews are there, and then over here everyone's drunk, and we were all like, hey, how are you, John? Like it was all normal. That's not normal. And people, like, it doesn't have to be that extreme, but what you've accepted as normal, not seeing your loved ones all day, working long hours, sitting in peak hour traffic, not living the life you want, that's still chaos just like ours. And you might think ours is the craziest thing is you've got more sense than we did. And you're still a prisoner behind your own eyes. Fuck that. Like, start to realize and sit down and go, wait a second, you just said something that fires me up. Don't be a shoulda, coulda, woulda was something my father told me. Be a doer.
Yeah.
Don't be a gunner, be a doer. And once you understand that convo, just start, man. And like, when you start, I had no one around me. And there is a time, I call it the abyss, where you're just going through this transition. And that transition, my advice to everyone in that abyss, which means I'm not at this level with the millionaires, billionaires. I've left everything I know behind, burned the boats, whatever you want to say, and now I'm stuck in this abyss. There's no one there, but that's the beauty of it. You get time to focus on you. How am I built? What can I change? What would I like to change? What feelings, emotions, actions, reactions do I want? How am I built on the other side of that? And start to work at those one at a time. And it could be around relationships. I didn't have boundaries. I didn't have values. I didn't have morals. It could be around business and understanding it. I got no idea in the world and just building that. And as I went through it, then I got Mark Burris. I got Fred Skabetz, like these people that, just great people in your life that as a kid growing up throwing bricks at police cars, there's no way Mark Burris was, contacted me unless he was claiming insurance on the brick I threw at his car. Big shout out to you, Marky. Love you, mate. I wouldn't do that to your car. But like, that's just, and that was through action that caused reaction. And that just takes time, and it does take time to work on yourself. Work on that, and it's the greatest gift you could ever be, the greatest job you'll ever have, and that's just to be you. And I think if people ever want to do that, I can help you with that. And if I'm not your person, that's cool. That's cool too. Just find your person, stop talking shit to yourself and get it done today. And I'm a coach that will say, go out into the world, or strategist more so. Go out, and if it's Beck that you're alone with, do it today. Don't talk about it, start to be about it, and cut the bullshit you tell yourself.
I love that.
Find any coach, strategist, whatever you want to call it, but do it today. Stop talking bullshit. Oh, I don't have time. You're full of shit. That's it.
Get it done. You've spoken now to nearly 1 million people, and
through the program.
Yeah, through the program, and I've seen you speak a bunch of times. You would be having a lot of conversations, and you touched on being a proud Indigenous man, growing up in Redfern, and you've been lucky enough to speak to a lot of Indigenous organisations and groups and sporting groups. Can you touch on, growing up in the world, being Aboriginal in Sydney, and, we've had the referendum recently, the stolen generation. There has been a lot of shit. Like, I can see why people would be fucked off. I can understand that. I can see your mindset change and your perception change. What's your advice when you're going and speaking to your Indigenous kind of counterparts and your brothers and sisters in that, to get themselves out of when they really have been through the ringer and still are going through it in a country that says we're not racist and talks like that? What's your advice to blind out all the noise and not feel that, to be able to create a change and growth for yourself and your family?
Focus on the identity of who you are rather than who you're not. And who you're not is someone else's opinion of who you are. It's just not. You can say whatever you want about my culture. That's your opinion, and I'm not going to get into it. And I'll ask you how you got there, And more than likely, whether it's your parents or something that formed an opinion, it's crazy. Like, people talk about Aboriginal people being drunks, and this ain't a knock on. I'm not in a competition about who's right.
Yeah.
It's about what's right. That's the first one I say to our people. And anybody, put the unity in community by doing what's right for the environment. Say we're in a circle, this room, and it's you and I. What's right to treat? How do I treat a woman? How do I treat another human? It's not like, another white human, and I'm black, or you're Muslim and I'm Christian, or you choose that and I choose this. It's just what's right. Just treat people the right way. And no one wants friction. If you're eating and I come up and I start screaming next to you, you're like, well, this bloke's a wanker. You're a wanker if you're getting involved in that. That's your choice. It's not my focus or energy to put into. That's an external, like the weather, that I can't control, and I'm not going to try. You can look up the facts to it. Watch Australian Wars, which is the factual journals of the first settlers as to what happened. And people, the biggest thing, what happened was wrong. What they did to women and children, if people understand that, like if any woman watches that Australian Wars, which is factual journals from Captain Cook, Philip Arthur and all the above, and talks about just straight out raping women and shooting kids on a beach playing and stuff of that nature, and you think that's cool, best of luck to you. I'm not going to argue with stupid. You can't reason with stupid. That's it. And then you'll scream, protect women and children in this day and age. There's no difference unless you've got unconscious bias because you're racist. And if you want to be racist, that's on you, not me. It's not my. I'm not going to put my energy into it other than talking on a podcast how we can be better and put unity in community. My grandmother taught me 4 things. I'll pass it on to everybody: love, kindness, empathy, and respect. Treat everyone with that, and I guarantee on the other side you'll have a good outcome. And if someone treats you bad, which will happen in life, and that has nothing to do with race and Aboriginal people, this, white people, that. Even for Aboriginal people, I say don't get into this white conversation. That's race. I'll ask the question, who likes racism in this room? And I said, anyone use the term white? Why do you use the term white? Just another human. And when you understand that, the world will be a better place. There's a beautiful word. It's called Millerism. Make the world a better place through human effort. Just be that person. Or I'll come and snap kick you and give you an uppercut. No, I'm joking.
No, but don't get caught in that division.
It's not my energy. And I'd say to people, why would you give energy to something that you don't want in your life? It's a lot of people have become unconsciously biased, and I do it in my workshops. I show them a picture of Aboriginal people sitting down in a park, and I say, what do you think this is? And they don't know I'm Aboriginal because obviously Pharaoh, and even that story, how did we get Pharaoh? There's a whole story behind a whole stolen generation. So it tells me you don't understand it. But to give you context to this, so everyone knows and understands as well, when I ask Aboriginal people or Aboriginal kids especially coming through schools, do you know who Hitler is? And they go, yeah, put your hand up. Every single kid will put their hand up. And I say, do you know who Pemulwuy was? And they're like, no. And that was the first male, which every person, correct me if I'm wrong, would want to stand up for a woman who was being attacked in public, which is what he did. He stood up, and he stood up for women and children and community and people, human beings, being treated badly. And take out all the colour, take out of the race. When you treat someone bad, I'd hope that someone stood up. And I guarantee if someone did some bad shit like they did in Bondi, in the mall, and some people lost their lives, may they rest easy, and it was no good, I guarantee you'd want me in that mall. I guarantee, and anyone that grew up the way I did, I guarantee you'd want us in that mall. Be that person back to us so that the world's just a better place. And, that whole story, even that, I heard his mother talk. If that man got treatment, might not have ever gone down and got the support from community and putting that unity into community. I'm not justifying him or not saying that he didn't do bad things. I'm just saying he obviously had a mental illness, and if we supported that person, there might not have been that, and some people might still be here, and that's how deep that rolls. But we don't realise, let's create division and friction, And I guarantee you, some point in time, you're going to have people on the other side of your environment that you don't want there. And, you made that choice. And if you make that choice, go and lay in your bed.
Division gets used as a weapon 100%. If you're divided in any conversation or in any way that you feel, I've been there 100%, men and women. I've been in that division of the black and white. I've been in that division. I've been in the us and them, the rich and the poor division. I remember being in those places and feeling like it's unfair and, but I 100% agree with you that when you get to a point where you don't allow yourself to be manipulated by seeing division and that everybody's got an opportunity, yes, some people are going to have to try push harder and do harder things than other people, then the world becomes a better place and it's doesn't seem as bleak,
Seek to understand. I think that's the biggest one. And it doesn't take much. Just ask a question or two here and there. You don't have to, write a novel about it. If you want to do that, go for gold. But in general, just go and ask a question here and there, maybe about Aboriginal culture. And the same, even for Aboriginal people, go and ask about non-Aboriginal culture, right? And when you get to that level of conversation, everyone expects, especially from an Aboriginal viewpoint, understand our culture, and I understand and I respect that too, but also go and learn about non-Aboriginal culture and why people aren't understanding it as well. And I understand now going through schools, they're not teaching it in schools. There's no way. Kids know Hitler, but they don't know. And that's Aboriginal kids. Do you reckon a non-Aboriginal kid's going to go home, or you go home tomorrow night and say, what happened to Aboriginal people? And it's just not going to happen. We don't even have time to look after our own self and get to the gym. They're not going to go and type in, Aboriginal people and and get to understand each other. Maybe just spend a moment and say, hey, if I was in your environment, hey, Jeff, can you teach us one thing about culture I didn't know? And I'd say, Tim, tell me about your family and one thing you grew up with that I wouldn't know. And we can start to merge together and understand one another better.
Yeah, and see the similarities. I think that's one blessing that, the curriculum and things don't necessarily have that teaching in it, but that's one thing that my mum and dad were good at.
Love that.
Was making sure that we were educated around, we moved from the UK over to Australia and having the education around what Australia is, what it means, what built Australia. And that was the biggest blessing, to have that understanding.
Love that.
So, we have touched on so many things. We could talk probably for 17 days about so much. And we will. What is something that you want to leave people on, the biggest piece of advice, or what is something that kind of stuck out for you that has been the biggest change maker, or something that maybe you've learnt recently that's made an impact or a difference in your own life? Maybe around, yourself, relationships, health, or something that's been new.
I'd say let go of control to gain control. And that, even as I get into business and the business has really scaled itself, it's like, I don't want to hire somebody, I'll do it because Beck doesn't know how to do it like me. No one will ever be Beck. No one will ever be Jeff. No one will ever be you. Go out and just let go of that control. So if it was a business sense, just say, look, I'm hiring Beck, and Beck's going to, here's what my vision is, here's the black and white structure and systems to that, here's the training to it. And at that point in time, Beck, be your creative self and let's roll out to the world. And that came from an inner reflection of no one will be ever as good as you are from today onwards. And that, when I say that, me, myself and I, you can't be better than you were from your past. But, today's the only day you got to focus on. I heard this, there was a bloke that said this the other day. He looked like a wise Asian man, and I say that respectfully, just human. And he said, today's dead, yesterday's dead, tomorrow's not here, today's the only day we need to focus on. And I think when you do that, you just let go of what you used to be or what could be, and here's what I am, and that control goes out the window, and you just love yourself. And here's what I'll do today for me around my health, eating habits you've spoken about, the business or the life I want, the relationships that I want. Spend some quality time with the people you love, and that's just the beauty of let go of control to gain control.
Love that. Good advice. So good. That was awesome. How can people find you? What are you working on? What can we expect to see from Jeff? And what's happening in Jeff's life at the moment?
We've got 17 hours to tell you. It's 2 documentaries this year, a personal development journal that will go hand in hand with the new online portal and space it's grown. So we've obviously got to build a lot into that, a lot of digital products, step-by-step journey that you can do by yourself or in the community or into the mastermind, and each one's a different tier. What did I miss? Yeah, Excellence event coming up, which basically celebrates good humans, but it's also about, so the celebration is sharing the knowledge that became power that then empowers somebody else to do what they want, when they want, with who they want, as much as they want. End of the year, I'm running 1,800 Ks to put unity in community and taking our ancestors back home. So the 2 homes that were very notorious for the stolen generation, take their spirit back home to my hometown. Mm-hmm. It'll be 1,800 Ks. And the idea, we're going to talk a lot about human beings and how we in Australia can start to get on better. And we're going to try and get that televised as much as we can. We're in negotiations at the moment. So that's a good one. And then the book will come out this year, and that will be the actual book of my life. And I've done the personal development journey, which has components of the lessons that became blessings in my life, because I'm about leaving a legacy behind. My story, it's out there, and if people want to read it, well, cool, but I'd rather give that to people, and that's my way of giving back from where I was to who I am. And you never know where I end up landing in this journey, living and loving, and who knows, we'll see what happens.
I'm excited. I'm excited to see where you go. Thank you for everything that you've been through. Thanks for coming out of it the way that you have and choosing to help others and find yourself on your feet. Thank you for the people that you've come across, the ones who did shitty things to you, the ones that maybe you've done shitty things to. And thank you for being in a position that you're able to share all of the knowledge through all of the experiences and grow into the Jeff that you're going to be. I'm excited.
Love that. Thanks for having me. If I can, you can. And I heard a little quote this morning, whether you think you can or whether you think you can't, you're right either way. Choose the right way for you, and I'll cheer you on whatever way you choose.
If you've enjoyed today's episode, you've taken something away, maybe for yourself or somebody else, I would love for you to share, and I'd love to hear from you. We are always keen on having conversations that people want to have and tackling those really hard subjects. So reach out. I'd love to hear from you. Thank you for joining me on the Resource Podcast, where we are making a ripple effect and making massive waves.